fans who came into the season finale of House of the Dragon expecting to see either the Battle of the Gullet or the fall of King's Landing, which I think was definitely a factor into the lukewarm reception to the final. There are many reasons why these battles have been pushed back to Season 3 that we will delve into in this video, but what I want to touch upon is the potential negative impact of moving these battles into the start of Season 3, and how this will have a knock-on effect on several major events. A big criticism of Season 2, often cited by many, is that the writers tried to stretch too little content over the course of a season. Thus, some of the storylines felt like they were treading water. I believe it's possible that due to the Gullet and the fall of King's Landing being pushed back to the start of Season 3, the season may in fact have the exact opposite issue, that the writers will in fact have to try and do way too much in 8, maybe 10 episodes. Now, from what we understand, during the pre-production of Season 2, it was the intent to have the Battle of the Gullet and the Fall of King's Landing at the end of the season, presumably during episodes 9 and 10. However, when the season was reduced to 8 episodes, these events had to be pushed back to the start of Season 3 for a multitude of reasons that we will get into. There are also several rumours as to why Season 2 was reduced to 8 episodes. The first states that the original plan for House of the Dragon was to have 3, maybe 4 seasons. While writing Season 2, it was decided by HBO to cut the original planned Season 2 into 2 halves. The first half would be the 8-episode Season 2 we ended up getting, while the second half of the original Season 2 would in fact become Season 3. In essence, it would have been best to look at it as Season 2A and Season 2B, consisting of 16 episodes. In a way, the HBO would have given the writers more time and budget to tell the story correctly. This is what was believed for most of the production of Season 2. However, in the last week, new information has come to light that suggests this might not have actually have been the case. From what we are now being told, 1 month before the filming of Season 2 was supposed to start, HBO told Ryan Condal to reduce the number of episodes in the season to 8 for budget reasons. Given Warner Discovery, HBO's parent company's latest financial report that came out a couple of days ago, it's not hard to see why. They're in serious financial trouble. The writers did have time to rewrite the planned season into 8 episodes, but now didn't have the budget to do Rook's Rest, the Sowing of the Dragon Seeds, and either the Fall of King's Landing or the Gullet this season. So, thus, these events were pushed back to Season 3. None of this is helped by the fact the writer's strike a few weeks later meant that tweaking the script on set was, well, problematic. However, because the show is produced in the UK, we're not really sure the true extent of how the writer's strikes really impacted House of the Dragon. This is why episode 8 kinda didn't feel like a proper finale for a lot of fans. Because, well, it was never really meant to be one, and had to be pieced together with what the writers had already planned, before they were reduced to 8 episodes. Okay, so these 2 key battles will open Season 3. It's a shame, but what's the issue here? It's a really cool way to open up the season, right? Sort of, it's complicated. And yes, it will be a really good episode 1 to the season. But in reality, the Fall of King's Landing itself is quite small scale and straightforward compared to the bigger events of the Dance of the Dragons. Plus, with the way the show has set up the Fall of King's Landing with Alicent now very complicit in it, I can very much see it being a real quick thing at the end of the first episode of Season 3, rather than spending half an episode on it. The Gullet is where the true problem lies here. Well, it's one of the biggest battles of the Dance of the Dragons in its sheer scale. You have the Triarchy fleet supporting the Greens, attacking the Valarians fleet with some ground assaults on Driftmark. Where it gets interesting here is 5 of the Black's dragons arrive from Dragonstone, and 2 get involved in the battle. In fact, it's the first time the Dragon Seeds are truly tested. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, given I know there will be a lot of people who've not read the book who watch these kind of House of the Dragon videos, but it's not really a clear victory for either side, with both taking huge amounts of damage and losses. But the most important part is one key character does die in the battle, hence why it's important. The crux of the issue is we know the Gullet was pushed to Season 3 due to budgetary reasons, in Season 2 attributed to Rook's Rest and the Red Sowing, but doing this in turn may now cause some serious issues with the production of Season 3 in a way that might not become clear until the audience sees the show air in 2026. We now know that House of the Dragon will in fact end after 4 seasons. We also know that right now it appears likely that these seasons will be 8 episodes each, but there is still a chance it's 10. We haven't really had official confirmation yet. Comments from Ryan Condal about Season 3 lead me to believe that at least Season 3 might be 8 episodes at this time. So here's the problem. Here's a list of key big budget events that they now have to cover in 16 to 20 episodes. The Gullet, the Fall of King's Landing, the Honey Wine, the Red Fork, the Fish Feed, the Red Kraken, the Butcher's Ball, both Tumbletons, God's Eye, Dragon Pit, King's Road. Now, that's a hell of a lot of large-scale, high-budget battles to try and fit into 16 to 20 episodes of TV. Some, of course, will be cut. For example, I expect the Red Fork and the Fish Feed will be merged. The Honey Wine will be more like how Season 2 handled the battle at the Burning Mill, with us really just seeing the aftermath. I think the first Tumbleton will be greatly scaled down. My point is, even without having to do the Gullet in Season 3, we are talking maybe a battle every other episode, which is going to be really hard to do while keeping a well-structured narrative. Because at the same time, we still have all the other character stuff and politics that also needs to happen. It's going to be really hard keeping a well-structured narrative. I know the Gullet will only be a part of episode 1, but the Gullet being in season 2 still would have given them a bit more breathing room to spread the narrative across season 3. The pace of season 3 is going to be rapid. Pushing the Gullet to season 3, in a way, pushes some big events that could have been in season 3 now into season 4, compounding the issue further. But the narrative pace issue is only one part of the issue here. The element of this that most concerns me is in fact the budget, and how much it's going to cost to do all of these events. If they couldn't afford the Gullet in Season 2 because of Rook's Rest and the Sowing, how the hell are they going to be able to produce the show when you have to do the same scale episodes every other week? They will merge some battles and scale back some, but it's still an accountant's nightmare. I mean, if they are saying Rook's Rest and the Sowing were ruinously expensive, I dread to think how much the Gullet is going to cost. Not only does this involve 5 dragons fighting at the same time, you have the ground assault on Driftmark, the actual sea battle itself, which as we know from Season 1 and from Game of Thrones, is 2 very expensive and time-consuming to produce, and well, to produce well in the first place. I can't see how they can do the book version of the Gullet without the budget impacting other key events of the season, which is exactly why the Gullet was pushed from Season 2 in the first place, the cost of Rook's Rest and the Sowing. This is why I suspect, to save time and money, they're going to change how the Gullet and the Fall of King's Landing play out by merging the events and having them happen almost simultaneously. Reduce the number of dragons at the Gullet, with half now going to King's Landing, and I can also see them massively reducing the assault on Driftmark to simply a few cutaway shots to get the point across. Doing this will save money and address the issue with the narrative structure of the season. Well, somewhat, with these events now only taking 1 episode rather than 2. Frankly, even with these kind of changes, doing the Gullet is still going to be a costly affair, and I do wonder how they're going to manage this. Ryan Condal and the other producers really do have a tough task on their hands here. I do think going back to 10 episodes per season would help alleviate some of these issues, but we are just going to have to wait and see how that plays out. I've heard they may be starting to film this autumn, and I've also heard some rumours of January, so I suspect we will start to get insider leaks and set leaks soon enough, and we might be able to build up a bit of a clearer idea of what's going on, the scale of the battles, who's involved with what, etc. How do you guys feel about this? Does the idea of another 8 episode season worry you somewhat? How do you think they're going to manage to cover so much content in so few episodes? What's getting merged? What's getting cut? Let's talk about it in the comments.